Warning, the following video discusses themes of suicide, sexual assault, addiction, and other heavy themes. Those sensitive to such topics are advised to click off the video. You have been warned. Thank you. Hello, I am the real Mr. Kraken, but you can call me Wyatt. And today is a bit of a different video from what I usually do. Usually I do gameplay or I've got a couple philosophy videos up, but today I wanted to discuss this book. It's a book, No Longer Human by Junji Ito. But yeah, today we're gonna review it and gonna discuss it. So strap in. No Longer Human is a story that was originally by an author. His name was Osamu Dazai, I think. I'm not sure on the pronunciation of that, but it was a semi-autobiographical biography by him, and it's a very heavy book. I am a fan of Junji Ito's work. I have read a fair few of his stories, and usually when you're going into it, you're going into dark, but usually it's more, I don't know how to explain that. I'd say it's, in comparison, it's like Terrifier, whilst No Longer Humans more like one of those dark foreign films you watch with a very, very moving and deep story. But yeah, when you're looking at Tomi or I think that don't get me wrong in the pronunciation. I'm not a master at it, but Tomi Uzumaki. Usually there are definitely themes, especially along his headliners. There's definitely a huge emphasis on something. Usually they have this just emphasis on imagery, or emphasis on dark imagery specifically. They have I don't know how, the best way to explain it is you're looking at weird messed up stuff, tentacles, you're looking at gore, and that is what the book is. I mean, they do have amazing stories, but it's kind of like shock value in terms of what you're looking at, and they're great. But wow, I just finished No Longer Human today, and it is definitely a different tone. It halfway through it, I was thinking, yeah, this isn't for me. It goes down the matter of, I'd say, degeneracy and depression. That is the big theme with Spiral. Well, for Spiral, it's the spiral. It's obsession. Tomi, it's narcissism, and then each character built around Tomi has their own downfall. But with this one, it was definitely a psychological experience. So going into how it goes, you meet this character, Oba. He's Yozo Oba. He's brought into life, and he has this idea that he needs to appeal to others. He needs to please and make others laugh. But he himself is in a depressive mindset. He's very pessimistic, and his view is that he doesn't like people. He doesn't get along with people, but he does whatever he can to please them. Every book is built around this plot where, as you go more into it, it's like Dante's Inferno. It goes through layers, especially Spiral. Spiral took that literally in a more literal sense, but from childhood, he's in a very oppressive family that don't respect him. And one day, one of his classmates noticed this facade he's presenting, and that's when his big issues start. He befriends this person, and he tries to, like, they have a good friendship, but it's the fact that this individual can see through his facade that really messes with Oba, and he messes with this friend, and the friend takes his life. And that's where it really kicks in for Oba. He realizes that his actions do have consequences, um, but it's his depressive state and his mindset that don't stop him. He continues to act this way throughout the entire novel, not caring about the consequences of his actions, because honestly, he does still view everything as a joke. It doesn't put it in a light-hearted sense, but he does not take anything seriously until the very end. Um, but moving on from this character, the rest of the book is just relationships. The first, I think it's the first couple of people he meets are sisters, and he involves himself romantically with both of them to please both. And in the end, he has both of them pregnant. Not only does he get both of them pregnant, but I think it's the younger sister kills the older one and her child, and then eventually I'd say she kills herself. I thought she did, but you find out she didn't, and that's very important for the end of the novel. But moving from that, he gets with a few people. He gets with a waitress who wants to take her life, and he plans on doing it with her. They go to commit with one another, and then he just kicks her off a rock and lets her die because he wasn't willing to actually go along with it. And we see this throughout the whole thing. He wants to he conveys that he wants to take his life, but he never actually reaches that point where he wants to go along with it. He always bails out last minute, and that is another thing that further impacts his mindset. I know a few people could probably relate to it, the mindset that if you're in a state where you don't want to live, but you're not able or don't think you have the courage to do it, you find yourself, you view yourself as lesser, you view yourself in a more weakened sense, and it's not good for the mindset, and it further devolves because you're not reaching that point that you think you want to reach. And in this book, we see how it seriously impacts his views. But then he gets with a tobacconist worker, and she is innocent. She is a virgin. That is a big upside in his eyes for some reason, because she represents purity. For him, he represents corruption and impurity for all of the bad he's done, for the lives he's taken so far. And due to that, he tries to take it slow with her. He tries to resist his very obvious feelings for her. And sorry, just cutting in there, I did forget another important character, Shizuka, I believe, who was a widow with a child, and he's in like a depressive slump and sleeping with other women and doing copious amounts of drugs and alcohol. She takes him in, doesn't really like rehab him, but she takes care of him. They sleep together, but he realizes or has this ideal of family with her. But towards the end, he sees the close relationship between the child and the mother and decides to leave that. So it is a reflective moment for him, but he decides he's not worthy of such, so he moves on. And she very clearly likes him. She has this concept that there is no such thing as a lie at the start. And no matter how much he tells her of the bad things he does, the cheating he does, she just doesn't believe him. And he has this relationship with her, but not only does he have this relationship with her, he has relationships with others, and she doesn't believe it. And this is a thing they kind of touch on later, but backtracking a little bit, he also has this friendship with another individual who's an alcoholic. He's an alcoholic, and he's very much, well, as the main character but just describes him as, he's a city boy. He represents like this slicked back party goer. He likes the city. He's a businessman, and he is very push and pull with Oba. At times he's respecting him, he's creating him, he's helping him, and then other times he's degrading him, and it's this toxic friendship. He doesn't view it as such, but it's this toxic friendship that really messes with him as well. It's the people he's surrounding himself with, but the way he's choosing to go about them. Furthermore, there's also another character introduced. See, Oba's a writer, and a lot of his friends are on the writing side of his life. So, the friend I was previously discussing, I can't remember his name at the moment, but he got into manga writing, whilst Oba, the main character, was heavily into it and was trying to make a living off of it. And this publisher he was about to work with to get his manga into an important thing ends up going with his friend, and that messes him up. And then this publisher or representative of the news agent he's working with sleeps with his wife. It's not conveyed explicitly as consensual. I'd say it's more on the lines of an assault. It's definitely deemed so, but his wife blames herself for that. But the degeneracy really sets in here because Oba enjoys it. As much as he says, I hate it, it messed me up, he finds gratification from it. And when he has relations with his wife, he continually brings it up, and it helps him reach gratification. It's a very, as I'm saying, degenerate part of the story. And this is where I wanted to put the book down. See, body horror, like the kind of themes you see in Spiral, where it's dark but not in a very human way. I enjoy that. But when it comes to this dude laying with his wife and forcing or reminding her of her assault and blaming her for it to please himself, it's very twisted, and you're thinking, wow, this is pretty messed up. This is pretty gross. But unlike, I'd say, other manga artists who would convey this for their own pleasure, as you go on, you realize that this isn't. I mean, the main the original author Dazai, you can tell that this isn't pleasurable for him. This is more so the trauma of human nature that really impacted his life. And the latter half of the story, I read the latter half of the story today, and it kind of quickly goes down from that. He starts cheating on his wife with a pharmacist, and she's kind of like rehab for him. She's providing him with what I guess is described as potentially opium, and she's dosing herself with it. And as he finds in a few people, he finds something intimate with them that he believes is comforting. I don't really see it much in the sisters, but with with his virgin wife, I suppose, or virgin partner, it was to do with her innocence. Innocence was comforting. With the waitress, it was because she was a major depressive, and he thought that was how it was supposed to be until he, killed her. But then with this one, it's I'd say it's addiction. Addiction's what pulls these two together, and yeah. But his wife finds out about this, and well, when his wife finds out about this, her perception that no one can do wrong, it breaks her. She spirals into this pit of doubt, and she blames, or she tries to accept it because she thinks that her assault was her fault. and that what he's doing is only fair, but it's really messing with her. And in the end, she tries to kill herself and him. She tries to kill herself. Obviously, it's not getting Oba's attention because he's in this degenerate state where he's finding himself comforted by this pharmacist lady. So he's ignoring his very vulnerable and distressed wife, and she says she's going to take her life. He ignores it. Then she tries her best to make him happy so that he wants to stay. He continues having an affair, and then she says that she wants to take her life and his life, and I feel in a more realistic sense, he's like, yeah, no, he tells the pharmacist, because the pharmacist is receiving these letters. His wife is sending letters to the place where she knows he is hiding, and after, well, she does end up taking her life. She comes into the pharmacy where he is hiding, takes a bunch of poison, goes home, and dies. He goes back to the house where they were living, and kind of just lets go of her. And then he goes back to the pharmacy, and the pharmacist blames herself. She, as many characters in the story, blame themselves for Oba's actions. And then she, well, in burning all the herbs she had in the place that were poisonous, that she had herbs hanging up, and it reminded Oba of his work because it was creating this dark imagery. It was representative of degeneracy. But yeah, she burns those herbs that his wife used to take her life, and it causes her building or her house to catch on fire with her father inside, her sick father that she was taking care of, and she runs inside to save him. And that's the end of those two. And this is Oba's breaking point. He's gone through so many women, and the one person he thought was his soulmate, actual soulmate, he calls a few of them his soulmate, but he thinks this is the pinnacle. She dies, and he kind of spirals through his misfortunes. He thinks they're misfortunes. He doesn't blame himself for anything. The only misfortune that you could arguably consider a misfortune is him considering his birth a misfortune. But nearly every other one is practically to blame for him. But he spirals through a symbolic Dante's Inferno. That's exactly what he does. He's falling towards hell, and he's going through his misfortunes, such as his child, or such as women, such as his friends, such as his clowning. He caused his trying to appeal to others, or his facade clowning, and then he meets the point where his father is in this thing. His father's disapproval of him was apparently his overarching issue. I'd say at points it's brought up as like, oh, my father doesn't respect me. It's messed up. But towards the end, he blamed nearly all of it on his father's disapproval, and then he goes to a mental ward to get some help. His friends say this is what's going to fix you, and in that mental ward, we meet Samu Daizai, and they get along. They tell stories of their life. Oba tells his story. We don't really see Dazai's story, but he says, Dazai says, I'm going to write a book on you, Oba, and it's going to be called No Longer Human. And then with this, Oba finds out his father died, and in the comfort of this friend Dazai and finding his father dies, he reaches, or he finds peace. This is his point of reaching peace. And then from this point, it goes through a few plot twists. So he better copes with his issues, and then he reaches a point where he's starting to get ready to go, and then He finds out that one of those sisters from earlier in the story is alive, and she's in the female ward of the building because he was trapped in a male ward because he couldn't be left with women. Finds this woman across from the ward, and he sees his kid. He finds his kid that he had with her, and it looks like that friend that he killed when he was younger. Mind you, the reason he thinks it looks like his friend is because his friend apparently looked. He calls his friend ugly. He thought his friend when he was younger was ugly, and had like the face of like a blobfish, and his kid has that face, and part of him thinks that there was infidelity, but then he's like, it can't be infidelity because that person died a year before the baby was born, so can't really happen. But yeah, and then he decides, you know what, I'm gonna live out my life with them. I know I just reached peace, and it was kind of like those things that were really messing me up. Oh, I'm gonna live my life with them, and then it goes back to a small focus on Dazai, and he's become a successful author. He's about to publish or release his book, No Longer Human, and he decides he's going to go visit his friend Oba, the main character, and he goes to visit this friend, and he's in like a terrible rundown shack. He had to move out country on the condition that he'd get financial support from his brother because his family still view that he messed up their family legacy. He needs to go away, but they understand the trauma he's gone through, so they're willing to give him financial support if he moved away. So he's living out in this country shack, but it's run down. It doesn't look the best. Dazai, the main character, he's got his wife, and they go in, meet the caretaker. There's a caretaker for Oba, and they find Oba, and he's slouched over, very decrepit and unwell, and he's not speaking. Dazai is confused. Dazai is like, read this. I want you to read my story. You really encouraged me because the book is based on Oba, and well, Dazai Oba doesn't respond, and then his wife comes in and thinks he's sleeping with the other woman there. That other woman being Dazai's wife, and starts beating the shit out of Oba, and then they have intercourse, and then Dazai is like, what the fuck? Understandable. And then we're going to go to the very start of the book. The very start of the book has a man and a woman by a river, and they decide they don't want to live anymore, and they take their lives. But those characters, we don't see that, or we don't know their name, but they don't look like the character we get to know through the story. If you're like me, you'd probably thinking, oh, maybe this is what Oba looks like when he grows up. No. This is Dazai. After seeing his friend get beat by his wife and then have intercourse, he decides to take his life. And this is very, very, sad, but it reflects the actual author or the original author, because this story is an illustration and slight retelling by Junji Ito, but the original story is by Osamu Dazai, and shortly after releasing his original novel, No Longer Human, he took his life. But in this story, that is supposed to be semi-autobiographical, because he is Dazai, but apparently a lot of the events in the story are based off of him. He is also Oba. But Dazai, after seeing that weird situation, takes his life with his wife. So that start of the story where you just see these two people take their lives comes full circle, but you're not expecting it. You're expecting maybe Oba takes his life. No, his friend that wrote a book about him takes his life. And then what happens with Oba? After having intercourse, he goes out to the beach and watches his wife and son play on the beach. And that's the end of the story. Very, very weird. There are a lot of plot twists, but see, as I've said a few times, his other work is dark, but this one is, it really tugs at human degeneracy. I know I keep saying that, but that is the point. What humans do that is messed up. That Oba makes terrible choices. He's not a good human. He blames others, but it's not really a kind of thing where he's like a serial killer or this jazz. No, he just makes terrible choices, and it's his human nature that is so disgusting and what makes his book so disgusting, because it's not like Junji Ito had to create some disgusting monsters to put in the story. No, he is just drawing human nature, and that is somehow more disgusting than like a massive tentacled lady with her faces open eating people. It's so much more disturbing because it is human, or as the book says, it is no longer human. It's beyond what we see as humane. And I mean, finding out that it is semi-autobiographical and that the dude who kills himself at the end did that in real life. Wow. But in terms of the book, would I recommend it? I'd say it depends on your headspace. I know that you can read anything when you want, but if you're not in a good headspace, I don't think this is a good book to read. It definitely is a dark one, and if you're if you're in a state of life where there are some things that are aligning with this book, if you're in a depressive state, I don't recommend it. This book is very, very grim, but outside of that, I think it is a very important book for reflecting on our human nature. I think it definitely tells a tale. It's definitely moving. And if you like Junji Ito, I'd say read this, but if you like Junji Ito, this is very different. This is not Junji Ito. This is a different person. This is Osamu Dazai. This is his story, and it is a dark one. But yeah. With that, I think that's all there is to say about the book. I think if you're in a good headspace, at least you should check it out. And if talking about this made you have any emotions that you deem unhealthy or hostile, please seek help. Please speak to someone. But yeah, I hope everyone out there is okay. Hope you enjoyed this video. I know it's a bit of a weird video, but you read an emotional book, you want to talk about it. But yes, with that, I hope you enjoyed. I might do this for some more books. This was interesting, but yeah, I hope you have a good day. And with that, I'll see you in the next video. Like and subscribe if you did enjoy. See ya.